Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, July 10th. It's 9:07 a.m. I'd like to call the Ogdensburg Board of Board meeting to order. First thing I'd like to do in the order of business, I'd like to introduce our new board member, Mr. Gavin Reagan. He's sitting at the end of the table here with his back. Maybe he can turn and wave to the crowd a little bit, whatever. But obviously, we really appreciate that you want to serve this board and Bill, to with all the involvements involved here, and really appreciate you wanting to take that time and effort out of your personal professional life to be part of this board and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to working with everybody.
Thank you again. Board, letters, communication with?
Several things I'd like to direct your attention to. Passed out were the hard copy finals of the certified audit. You have both those documents. Also passed out was the brand new ethics in state government from the Joint Commission on Public Ethics that's in the packet. There's the bridge crossings that I'll talk about. There's an update from McFarland Johnson regarding the airport project. There's a settlement agreement regarding the proposed settlement agreement that we need to discuss in executive session regarding litigation. There is a document that I'll address in my period report regarding the Minister of Transport. There are several thank yous that we need to acknowledge for letters of support, specifically Congressman Owens, Addie Russell, for letters of support regarding the Tiger Discretionary Fund and relevant news articles throughout the period. That's it for letters and communications.
We need the approval of the board members from a special meeting held on June 12th.
I'll move it.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do you have any from the citizens or any comments? Yes, sir.
In the audience is Rick Field.
Okay.
He has offered insurance quotes from Transrail and Mr. Gallagher. Transrail is the organization that has offered those quotes. He is here for that portion of it.
Would you like to adjust the agenda at all for his presentation?
No, I asked him and he said that he would like to address it to me.
I'll see how long I can make it for you.
My flight from Syracuse isn't until 7 p.m., folks.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, so let's move on with some staff reports.
My period report is over on page 3. Drafted with the assistance of the Canadian Council response to a Canadian Security MOU request that you can see in your read file. There's additional follow-ups needed on this issue, and we do need to talk about this in the executive session. So I can brief you on that. The website revisions are complete. We're in full compliance with public authority accountability and ABO compliance requirements. Most likely until somebody pulls up and looks through and finds a new requirement that we're not aware of. But as of right now, we're moving. MWBE compliance remains a priority for the authority. We're continuing to work through that. We've had several meetings with a health insurance provider here at the authority regarding upcoming health insurance plan changes that go into effect in September. As far as the port segment of the business, there are several items related to the airport. One is the North Country Airport Alliance presentation to the North Country Regional Economic Development Council Tourism Committee for future funding for joint cooperative effort, marketing effort for the airports. Extensive work regarding a special project at the airport, which I'll brief you in the executive session, and several updates to the airport master plan. Other things, keep you up to date on. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have had several discussions with them about the status of the project, now that the project team has been assigned, and my understanding is they will have a site visit here within the next month, 2 months, to start.
Coming here.
Yes.
Excellent.
The project kickoff. A lot of work, relative to rail-related things, specifically, there's a rail bridge rehabilitation, grain bin, CFA that will be going in, that's the funding application. 2003 grade crossing litigation, had a lot of help from outside counsel on that, and I've asked that the railroad assign someone from the railroad to assist with the Northern Norfolk Central Schools effort to obtain a grant from the National Park Service for a railway trail program. Other priorities, continue working on a special expansion in the industrial park. Things are about, I would say about 90% complete there. We still got to get all the documents drafted up. And there's several other things, but in the interest of time, I'll truncate it there and open it up to questions.
Well, one thing that we talked about within the board, Doug, was this new tourism part of some of the mandates we put in there, whatever. And I thought maybe we could do is, put that part in with our marketing committee. You know, kind of coordinate that in there or whatever, so I think we'll get together, we can talk about that, see exactly how that works for us, because we need to make some sort of directives and commitments, in that direction, so. That what we're talking about, right?
Yes, it is. Okay. That is right.
Okay. Anything else of Wade? Okay, Mr. Moore, why don't you give us your report?
Okay. The financial reports, Doug, you mentioned last time for this fiscal year, they're not available yet. We have got reconciled with the audit, so we will be closing the ledger total today, and so this year's fiscal information will be available next month. In the June, airport and bridge traffic reports have been distributed. I'll talk about those last. We continue to search out WBE vendors. I attended training in Albany. The message from the meeting, along with the training, is the importance of meeting our MWBE participation goals. Our Paris reporting was completed before the June 30th deadline, having the audit done in June, and accepted in June, and reported much smoother.
But let me stop you there, because this MWB thing, whatever, you know, it's kind of like our initiative and what we've been trying to do and trying to get there, whatever. It seems like we've taken this task full force, whatever. What are some of the penalties that they address there that, I mean, I know we've had conversations and all kinds of things that, I mean, what can happen or not happen here, or whatever? I mean, is there severe penalties of regards? Did you learn from that? Is something we're missing here?
There have been nothing spelled out as penalties. There is.
Ethical obligation, that's what
It's
they
an
say.
ethical obligation, yes. And I believe that there will be publicity, negative publicity about those who fail to meet the law. That has not happened.
That's significant.
I think it is. I think recognize effort. They also recognize what they might consider lack of effort. And how they define that, I'm not certain. That's a subjective measure. I believe right now they feel that we are making strong efforts.
I'm just curious, of, as you say, we're making efforts, and if you can't, come up with that, you can't make your goal, what's the penalty, as you just said, we're gonna get negative publicity about it, but if the effort's there, and we can't, come up with that figure, then.
Yeah, I have been charged with us making our goals. That's my job as the MWBE, I don't know, MWBE.
I think it's MWB.
Compliance officer, right. So I feel a strong responsibility for doing everything possible for us to make our goals. And I will do that. If we don't make it, I should be able to tell ESD with confidence that we made every effort possible.
And I think it's a very good point, because all these things that we deal now, it's all part of our discussion.
Yes.
What I'm bidding and those type of things, it all comes into the matter of what we've done that, and it'll be all the effort we're trying to do it. So our whole thinking and philosophy has changed
Yes.
over the last couple of years.
It really has, from everything right down to every procurement that goes out the door, every request for procurement, request for qualifications has the updated MWBE standard. Several things you'll see in this morning's agenda have where we have requested quotes and included MWBE firms as well.
I thought it was a good point for to discuss that right there. Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Continue. Yeah,
What
go ahead.
happens if we quote the bid for a project, and, the MWBE outfit gets the contract, and our staff feels that they're not qualified to do the job that we need? Are we penalized for that if we go to the next low bidder, and the next low bidder isn't?
If we were to do that, I have to send a request for an exemption to ESD and explain why. And if they feel that that explanation is satisfactory, they will grant it. If they feel it isn't, they won't.
Exactly what Fred is talking about happened this morning in my committee with the facilities committee. We haven't rejected anybody's bids, it's in regards to this fence. That was an exact question I had, even though the person is lower, anything else doesn't meet the best interest of the authority. And that particular issue is, the company, that I said was only $2,700 off, it's got a 20-year warranty on the fence, but the other people got a 1-year warranty, or 2 years labor versus 1 year labor. And then if you look at it, and you look at the prices of the linear feet, the higher bid was $22.63, and then you look at the other one at $16.50. Steve says, oh, well, that doesn't matter, they all meet the state specs. But is what fences state specs and all that stuff, we don't really know as board members. So to make an honest decision of the most responsible bidder here is the person who gives you a 20-year warranty versus a 1-year warranty, 2-year labor. So he's been requested to send that request in to get a waiver on this particular pricing, and then we'll make a decision what we should bring to the full board. But that's a good question you brought up, because I feel the same way. And also, I'd like to put on the record, the public is asking me, I'm local, I'm the person here, you people are going way out of the county, way out of the area to get these requirements met. Well, as Fred says, that's his job to look for these qualifications. But when you put a mix in with these minority contractors and with the other contractors, you try to get a bid, you're gonna be, it's hard to do that. Now, here's one today where the minority contractor is the lowest, but in actuality, it could be the other way, it could be the highest. So we're stuck with that, according to the state, you are stuck with that, because you gotta meet your minority requirements. I'm not fully convinced in all the rules, and maybe the board members all should get a copy of these rules and procedures that our staff people have to follow, where we can understand it a little better when we're passing these motions and passing these resolutions. Because I'm not convinced that's the way we gotta go. I think we gotta do due diligence to get it out there, but it doesn't say we got it. We can still accept the most responsible bidder. That's our rules here at this authority. Now, can we get in trouble for that? I don't know. I don't think so.
And I'll give another side of it when we get to the other part of it. It's it's two sides to every problem. Let me continue with the report because we got a little.
I provided a list of analysis for different things. I spent quite a bit of time, Karen and I, providing information to the insurance vendors to enable them to make quotes on insurance. That's not the agenda today. We have also calculated and implemented the PERB award. And we provided quite a bit of information also to tasking companies with the ESD required audit for the access road work. We thought we were done with the audit, and then we continued to have to provide information for this. That was again required in order to get those grant funding. Yes. The next will be the NWVE first quarter report is due next Monday. We've got a lot of that work done, but we have not completed the report of the NWVE. It won't be long before it's budget time. Any questions?
Just, you got assigned work duties in the accounting department.
Yes.
You did that before, is this above
Yeah,
and beyond what you did
this
before?
is, well, got it. Right, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions, Fred? I'll make a comment for Steve here. My wife, sister had surgery yesterday, so if anytime you feel that you're going too far, you need to go over whatever, you attend whatever your problems is, go ahead. Turn the page here. Okay, John, you're up.
Over the past month, we held a meeting, a tour and a site tour with the local industry that's looking at bulk shipments out of the port. It's exploratory at this point in time, but they are requesting load rate and all the costs of some products, so they are researching pretty aggressively right now. Had a tour with one of our large marine customers in Meridian. Continue to work on wind turbine projects that are planned for the next couple of years. Trying to convince companies to use our port facilities. We've got a meeting later this month with one of our salt companies, Morton's, that's scheduled. We're a grant for the Department of Homeland Security for port security upgrades. Ongoing discussions with two firms that are looking at the Wagner Road site. Both of them are in the preliminary stages right now. Working with a local firm that's exploring a warehousing option at the port. That's going to depend on cost and improvements to buildings that are needed. Have an important meeting later this month with a large Canadian grain company that does not use the port presently, but has expressed interest in it. I've got one 2 or 3 times already. Under industrial development and promotion, place some new ads on North Country Now website. Renewed WPBS ads, as discussed in the marketing meeting. New ad story, website and video at the Ottawa Business Journal website. Check that out, it's obj.ca. That's really nice. We designed for the new lure brochure and sent out 8,000 piece mailing to Ontario companies. That went out yesterday, and I would expect calls back later this week, next week, with site visits, agent letter mailouts. Continue to work with an Ottawa-based company that's very serious about the industrial part. It's a very good prospect. It's just a matter of them getting established in New York State. Doing all the due diligence, so they can put off a couple of times, not the local person on the first start date. And we have the industrial prospect, the road site that is still quite interested. They're doing their due diligence and need another 6 weeks to complete that. And we have a new tenant here for the bridge administration building, and we're on a grant application for the Ogdensburg Regional Commission for fiber optic.
John, one of the things that, we've talked over the years, we new opportunities are out there, some things are, people are just still hesitant to make the leap.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of movement aggressively expand. I think the traffic from the seaway is probably down 4 or 5%.
It is, so,
Yeah.
okay.
So, kind of, just unchanged, I would say.
Better than
That's
2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think so.
So there is some
I think there's a little
subtleties
work
of the
there,
report,
yeah.
What do you hear from Phoenix in regards to the Ogre Hobbs plant? Are they getting some reports back so we know what they're looking at or doing anything?
They've completed the project and they're still stay in touch with them and, they're assisting me with, I know cost, setting up a meeting.
So there is some movement somewhere and it's not just stagnant, it is, okay. So I mean, I know we invested in that process and like all our authorities have to move. Any other questions for John?
Yeah, I have a John, tell me what you're talking about here with this fiber in the industrial park. I thought that was all resolved with fiber. Don't we have all the fiber we need there?
No, there is supposedly fiber on one of the lines, basically there's telephone poles around the outside of the park and everything else is buried underground. And the majority of the buildings do not have fiber. The only customer that I know that had fiber at one time was Breckenridge and building one, and they buried fiber, from building one to building, well, 11, so they can communicate between those two buildings that they but the other companies, all the other companies don't have fiber.
But they were, at one time we did some type of a survey to find out what their needs were, and I understand that at that time there was none, and then is it Splint or what was that company that we've been dealing with here, fiber?
Slick has been talking.
Slick?
Slick has been,
Having conversations with quite a while with them, but last time we were talking to them was, fiber over the bridge, at the same time we were talking to them, that was a couple of years ago.
But we don't have the fiber available in the park.
Slick has talked about wiring the park for probably at least 10 years now, and I reach out to them every 6 months or so. And I have the same answer, it's, it's another 6 months, it's another year out, and that's been going on for 4 or 5 years. So I think the best approach for us is to try and secure some grant funding and then decide later on who it is that installs it, who's maintaining it, who's, actually lighting the fiber and going into the potential customer.
We need to get the structure done, get it in there.
Yeah, it's just in this day and age, it's just unbelievable.
Well, I see this on your thing here, so I imagine you've been talking to Dank about this. I mean, they're the, it seems that they're the people to help us when everybody else fails. It looks like the other company's not meeting any requirements. Now, what do we have in the port for fiber?
I don't think we have fiber down there.
So it's maybe another area we might wanna look at. And maybe people that would wanna be in the port and have opportunity to have fiber, so if you're talking to Dank, maybe you should talk to him about that too. And do we have it at the airport? That's all I have.
Thanks, John, for your report. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to do this last night,
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
point out the bridge traffic, the autos were up 7%, trucks were down 3 for an overall up 6% for June. So continuing strong. Commuters, passengers at the airport, was up 85, up 11% for the year before last year.
dollar value has dropped 5-6 cents of a dollar, and I know that the media reported that it's not having an effect yet, but everybody, it would be interesting to see what that effect does have on our business proceedings, whatever. It may be just a temporary thing, I don't know. Something to track, see where that goes. Thank you very much. Steve, you want?
Over in the industrial park, we had a project to install a gas meter in building 14 to get a better handle on utilities. That project's complete. As part of our new lease with FedEx, there was some issues of upgrading the space. We're in the middle of that. That should be done by the end of the month. And the bids are due this Friday for 2 new units on building 9 that we have budgeted as part of our upgrading our capital budget. On the bridge, we had 9 areas of repairs that needed to be done on the 4 beams. 6 of those 9 are done. That's moved along really well with it. We've got 2 crews that are working on those, and the last month that's been the focus of their work. Out at the airport, really a lot of just regulatory things going on out there. We've done our, if you've noticed, we've done our mowing out there. And one point to talk about, we have scheduled a large training exercise with local fire departments for August. And right now we're in the middle of organizing that. And that'll count for our training exercise for the FAA. But the local fire departments in Littleton and Ogdensburg have been a great help there. Down at the port, in the last month, we've had 2 vessels, well, actually the same vessel, but 2 different deliveries. One in June and one in July. The one in July, you can update that number to 18,000. That they added another 4,000 to us. So we've roughly brought in about 48,000 tons of its North American road salt, that's good to get that out of the way, and there'll be others. They're expecting something the end of July and possibly early August. Let's see what else down there. We did receive quotes on a chain link fence, and that'll be something we'll talk about later on. And some of the other items, we've done some staff office improvements here in the building. That's ongoing. We put some new carpet in John's office and did a little interior work there. And we've begun the exterior painting of the bridge administration building in between rain showers. But we're doing our best on the front there, and we started some painting. And also you'll see that we're going to ask for, we had no bids on surplus equipment. And we're going to ask you to take a look at that and we'll lower those minimum requirements.
I would also add that we'll have everything back in place and the building one color again prior to the North Country Regional Council public meeting that's going to occur in this room. It's the date for you. I'll send that out via public notice, but we were able to have the regional council public meeting occur at this facility. They were looking for a facility and we sent that completed. So now we're done after our vote.
Regarding the painting outside,
Steve about going up and visiting them, to find out just what they're doing, and maybe it's not the same brick, but you're right, we gotta fix this building or do something about it. This building's cost us a lot of money, per square foot, the last I knew it was around $18 to maintain this building, that's a lot of money.
I got a couple of questions, and actually it's for Randy or Steve, whatever. One of the things we talked about in the past was the lighting for the toll area. And we thought maybe at nighttime it wasn't lit well enough. And I was also questioning about security cameras for them.
We've installed both.
So they're really
Yeah, you'll
covered.
see on this side, they wanted, for everybody, originally we just had lighting in the lanes. The full collectors were concerned about out in Netherlands on each side. So we installed kind of floodlights off to that, and then those come on with the regular lighting goes, so it illuminates that area. And then, this spring we installed a camera in each lane, just right down on the transaction area. Those are operable.
I'm really concerned at nighttime. I mean, it's, somebody's there by themselves, where they want to be. And
Sure.
like that,
Yeah.
and people
And we also installed a, it's a PA, you'll see on there, I said install new PA siren system. When they're locked in there, it's one of those that you hear at a track meet or something like that. If somebody gets out of their car and starts walking toward them, they don't have to reach, they can talk there, then there's a siren on that they can just set off. That,
notifies the crew.
yeah, and not just to let somebody know that we're serious about what's happening. 'Cause a lot of times truck drivers will pull up at 11 or 12 at night, just asking questions, and you just don't know what they're up to. So so basically you say, get back in your truck and drive in, you know, but rather than them hollering that, we work on that. So we met that, that was it, we were there.
If you've got a minute after the meeting, we can have a discussion.
Oh, I like that. I like to see.
Sam, at a toll collector meeting last fall, they did bring up the lighting issue and the security issue. We addressed that, and at a later toll collector meeting,
Okay.
they felt
And
much
there's-
more comfortable.
Oh, that's excellent. Then I know something we discussed here.
Yeah, that when we first came out, that was the exact issue, and we worked on that. I think last year we got
Okay.
lights in early in the season.
I mean, their awareness of what the problem is and satisfying their,
Yeah.
so that's what they can do. The other question I had, I was here, the other day getting a bridge card, and somebody wanted to come in and buy with a credit card. Are we still not in a system where we can have credit cards or what's going on with that? I know we discussed it, whatever. What is our concern that we can't pull up to the toll booth and use a credit card, whatever?
The biggest concern is the size of the transaction. Credit card fees are based on a set amount. If it's like 20 cents per transaction plus a percentage, 1 or 2%. So in a $2.75 transaction, that is a big fee because of the transactional fee is 20 cents. 20 cents of 275 is nearly 10%. It's 7 or 8%. So the transactional fee is what makes it difficult. Now, if we had a minimum, that anybody, but then that defeats the purpose. So that's the issue.
And we have 3 fees: Canadian price, US price, credit card
You
price.
can well, I see, I don't know about that, but that would be something that's not credit card.
Yeah, because I mean, the lady couldn't buy a card because she didn't have the cash to buy a card. And it's like, because she was a commuter or whatever she was, and I'm saying, well, okay, so now it brings me to another issue here is.
She can get the card.
Huh?
She can get the card and just activate it out to the total once she
Yeah.
has the cash.
But she couldn't take the credit card.
You can take the credit card, but we can actually get her the card, put the information into the computer. When she has the cash, activate it out to the total.
Yeah.
How much was the card to, like, this
$37
For 20.
for 20.
20 cents?
Well-
That's not bad.
Yeah.
It's a 275
Yeah,
transaction.
yeah.
Well, for a single,
Yeah,
it
right.
makes sense, but we ought to have a way that people can purchase, the cars.
Yeah, with the dollar exchange, with this dollar exchange, this is the concern that I've had, and this board's had, with the amount of money that we lose exchanging money back and forth. And now all of a sudden, I know the Canadian dollar jumped about 4 cents in about 8 days. It went from 1 to 5 cents, whatever. How do we protect ourselves when that happens?
We've changed the fee for Canadian to $2, from $2.75 to $3.
But I know we're taking it to the bank, and we're getting beat there. Is there
Yes.
another way around that? I mean, I don't know.
We'll be starting with that, bank transaction.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that transactional fee unless we take our banking business to bid and have that be part of the bid process, what the transactional fee is on foreign exchange.
Right. I guess, me being a banker,
Yes.
that is negotiable. So I would, and I'm not saying you want to leave community bank or any bank, but that's definitely negotiable. So maybe even the inclining that you might take it to bid, you might be able to negotiate.
The fee that they charge us is less than the fee that they charge the general public.
For sure.
I don't know how competitive it is.
Right.
But that's a thing I think that we should look into, bidding out our banking business.
Well, we've had the initial conversation trying to get that fee lowered with the bank, that is going nowhere, so I would agree with that.
Well, I mean, not my personal banking group, whatever, but the bank that I worked with, I wanted to transfer, exchange Canadian money. Well, they had to call another bank to say that what is the fee for that, and it was a transaction fee, and there was an exchange fee, and it was that, and I'm going, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, I'm just a little guy, and I couldn't believe how much money it was gonna be, and, to do that, whatever. But I'm just concerned about, what we're doing in this process, and things that, I know there's enough to do here for all of us what we're doing, but, whatever we say, what we do, and how we serve the public, how we do service better, is one of those type of things, or whatever, but I just wanna address that, whatever, so.
How much money do you think if we actually, the Canadian funds that we receive, it's just an idea? Well, there's an important reason why I'm
I
asking.
know what you were saying.
Probably over $1 million.
Yeah, I know that, that's where I'm coming from.
Just a while,
I
yes.
don't know what we might have to do on that.
Probably one of the places we have to start is find out what they're doing at the other two bridges. What fees they're paying.
I think one way around could be to have a Canadian dollar bank account. We would just, yeah, and then we would especially find that fact because we dealt with a lot of Canadian vendors, because then we can pay them in Canadian dollar bank account. But we don't have a lot of Canadian, we don't that we pay, so. I think even if we had a Canadian dollar bank account where we would put it in a full Canadian dollar value, that we wouldn't be, we would still end up having to exchange against it.
Good idea to look at it though. You brought up a good issue. And that's, years ago, some of this stuff, it depends on how much business we also do over there. So, where do you want to put it?
Let's address it and put together a draft RFP and bring it forward to the finance.
There you go. You might make that a lawnmower. Hey, Steve, you might get a lawnmower out of this. Any more questions for you, Steve? Anybody else?
I yield my time. You look good.
Oh, my God. Okay,
Chairman, with
yes, sir.
Karen not up at the table, it might be in order to ask if she had anything to add to.
Oh, okay.
the reports.
Thanks, Fred. I really don't have much to add to what Fred said. We kind of looked at the report together that he had put together. Most of what he spoke about, I've been working on since I've been back. We did, like he said, put together some of the MWB spending report to get that ready for next week. The only thing I can think that he didn't really touch on was we had to prepare a semi-annual report from the New York State Joint Commission on Ethics that we've got prepared and ready to be sent out. So, but pretty much everything he said, what I've been doing.
questions I have there, Mr. Chairman, about the credit, that's the way. Is she scheduled for an ethics thing? Go through the ethics procedure?
I have to go down for the mandatory training as the ethics person for the authority next week. I have to bring back a packet that is very similar to what you received today, and then I have to train the authority within 30 days.
So she will go through.
Yeah, she'll be going through the ethics training.
Right, that's what I was asking. She has to go down to Albany too? Or give me the training?
Yeah, I go down for, I go down
Oh,
for
they
like a
changed
training
another
trainer.
procedure in there, oh, okay. Well, that's good, so you're gonna be training me and Sam? That's good.
I've already taken the training one. I had it for another job. Okay, moving right along, where was I here?
Steve, you
Committee
was done.
reports, facilities committee met this morning, anything you wanna add, Fred, to,
Mr. Chairman, everything is in proper order for you to present to the full board.
okay, we'll go with that. Finance report, committee?
Finance committee will wait until next month to present a report, hopefully on the Canadian exchange, but, we didn't get monthly reports, on that,
Okay.
just because the closing of the books and whatever, and that will have to for one.
Okay. Marketing committee, we haven't really scheduled anything with that, lately, you got anything?
We decided our last meeting that we're gonna wait quarterly, is that what we talked about?
Yeah, we actually had a date that's coming down.
Yeah, we had a tentative date that is,
Oh, yeah,
coming
yeah.
down for that.
Yeah, but John had to go.
We need to,
Yeah. Yeah.
we need to get something.
Okay.
We're in the tourism part with that, whatever, so, that'll be the personnel committee, so. Any unfinished business, Wade, that we need to talk about?
There's no unfinished business. I would like to correct one thing, though. I mentioned the North Country Regional Economic Development Council public meeting was going to be in this room after the board meeting. It's actually before the board meeting, on 1/6. I'll get the time out to you on that as soon as we find out exactly when it is. I believe it's in the afternoon.
Our regular meeting.
Our next meeting will be August 7th.
And that's on our agenda, is that a appropriate time for everybody, everybody okay with that? Okay, leave it at that, 8 AM.
Tentatively 8 AM for the facilities, 9 AM for board meeting.
Okay, I guess we're into, general business, items, and general administration, Wade, take us, to that, please, certainly.
Over on page 9 of your packet, this is an industrial building lease with Razy International for 120 square feet of space here in the Bridge Building. The term is July 15th of this year through July 14th of next year at the rates, terms, and conditions that you see before you. There is a corresponding map on page 10 that shows where they
John, those type of rental agreements, whatever, I know we have building one over there that has office space, whatever. Is there any way that some of those people here would go there, or is it just about this building that they wanna be here?
Yeah, with some of them, with some of them definitely, they prefer to stay in you know, the activity and the other people working here.
Okay.
And whereas if you go to building one, they're pretty isolated and,
But eventually, if you were full here, would that be an appropriate way to move our next clients over there? Because you do have,
and we always offer them that space. I actually showed this one here, space in building 19 here. That was true the last time too, but there's one here that's coming up and another one that's talking about it. I'll ask that again, yeah. Well, mostly this is office and
it's an easy sell for you, I guess that's what I'm saying. People come to you and you have the space, it's here. If you didn't have the space, your next sell would be building one. One thing I did notice is our smoking policy, remember, the people who buy going out there to where they're supposed to be.
No smell coming in the door no more.
No, you don't. No, you don't. So that's a good thing. I don't know how that
second item over on page 11, this is agenda item A2. This is approval of revised minimum bid amounts for surplus property. As you recall, we had surplus property that was bid previously. There were no bids, therefore we discussed with the facilities committee this morning about reducing the minimum bid, and that's what you see in front of you on page 11.
I move it.
Second.
Second from, Don releases his vote in second to you, Doug. So you get the second.
All right.
So if something comes up, Doug, you're on there for
Yeah.
the second now. Any further questions, comments? I think the only comment I would make is, as reviewed this, our initial bid prices didn't get anything to say. So we're just kind of like, we have to move this, if not, then we go to salvage. Go to salvage, whatever, so we just can't have this stuff laying on. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Over on page 12, agenda item A3 is approval of purchase of lawnmower. This is for a Jacobson lawnmower, R311T, through state contract at $50,099.27. This was discussed with the facilities committee earlier today, and it was agreed to move forward.
This wasn't in the budget.
Didn't go back and look. I believe we took it out.
No, we didn't have
We
it.
had a line in at one time.
But this is actually a replacement for the equipment that caught fire and burned up. Okay?
Is this bigger than the one we had?
Same stuff.
Same size.
So this isn't the one we talked about last week.
No.
This is-
Replacement for the one that burned up.
Had the other one not burned up, this would have been what we would have brought forward. But what happened is, instead of getting one additional, now we're looking at replacement. Because of the one that burned up.
Okay, well,
And we will be getting somewhere in the neighborhood of
We had, yes, somewhere around 14,000. We had $15,000 deductible, and there may be some salvage. If we purchase this, we will, whatever salvage we will be able to keep as spare parts for this, and maybe more decks, some lift arms that maybe salvage. So if they do lower the amount we get from 14,000, because that's salvage, we will keep those parts.
One of the things that we're talking about the parts and stuff, I think that we also should maybe look at the salvaging that transmission. In case one goes out.
Yeah, yeah, we.
Whatever salvageable.
Yeah, well, yeah, tires or some rims and things that might have.
Good idea.
That is the case, we can just park them out.
One of the things that we did discuss in the facilities committee was, talking about what we do and how we do things, mowing grass, whatever, it's called, level of presentation, what we do and how we do things, whatever. And we really feel that we're not really meeting the goals of the way we want to present our grass where we are because of the way the things that we've had. Now, Steve took us along historically where we were 10, 12 years ago and where we are today. We also realize now, instead of with a new lawnmower, we need to look at exactly how we do things, and there's another level of ways we can present and manicure our lawns at a better level, whatever. What we also addressed was, this lawnmower does the basic needs that we've already had, but we need to make another step forward. With some of the smaller equipment doing larger items in a larger area. And I'll come back to this board that there's another size lawnmower that's bigger than a 48 inch, and I'm not sure exactly 96 or whatever it is. But we need to look at that to increase our quality or our, the way we present our lawns, look, whatever. And we talked about, I remember here the lawns were, I mean, they're always high. They're always high, and there's a level when you bring it down a little bit, it has a little different texture, different look to it. And it's like, I think we can do we agree that we can do a better job. It's gonna be a little more expensive in certain ways because you got a better lawnmower and a better lawnmower, but you'll get results, you get visual results. And some things you see that you get results with the money you pay, and some things you pay money for things and you can't see the results. So this is really one of the things that we'll do a better job with. said, and we talked about, was the training aspect and all those type of things that, we don't have this problem, happen again, no. What you said is, thankfully, the gentleman operating the mower got off, realized that it wasn't his job to save the lawnmower, his job was to get off, get away and protect himself and do those type of things, so. He was trained to a certain degree to do certain things to, protect himself first, and, thank God he didn't have a serious injury or whatever, so. That being said, we would agree that this mower met all the capabilities, and we're all familiar with this piece of machinery. It knows that we know what it does, what it doesn't do, and the expectations are there, so it's a good lawnmower. So that being said, I need a motion.
So,
John, Steve second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All the ayes.
And that brings us over to page 13, agenda item B1. This is approval of contract to relocate a security camera. This is driven by the Coast Guard's need for us to monitor the camera system at all times at the port. As such, we need to relocate it from the old building where the truck scales used to be to the new building where the truck scales currently are. There's a cost of this of $14,780, and that is with a contractor and the CC.
I'd just like to ask, a little puzzled on this. All this equipment is now in place at the old facility, right? They're telling you, due to the fact that we don't have somebody working in the daytime, during the day in operations, that we need to move the cameras to the new location where the scale house is. Why would we be moving all the equipment when we just need to move, or maybe add a camera or cameras into the scale house and leave the cameras that is in the facility now in place?
Well,
Why wouldn't we?
We are, Fred. It's really, all that is adding a camera and then adding a receiver and radio signal that we can pick up. Ours are all wireless.
Okay.
Currently we're gonna take.
So you're still gonna have that?
Yeah, everything's still gonna
Okay,
be there.
all right, that's all I wanted to know.
Really, we need a new node that picks up all that wireless and brings it over there. So, in effect, I mean, we're only gonna have one monitor, but conceivably you can plug it in here or plug it in there.
Okay.
We're moving that over, we need a pole just to get the height
Right.
to receive
All right.
everything. That's where the expense comes from.
That's good, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Now, why is there a bidding process for this?
It's sole source.
Pardon?
It's sole source that the system that we bought is only serviced by NCC. I can't get another security company around the market to work on it. It's kind of like we are with the toll booth.
WBT certified.
Right. Yeah, it's all sole source.
Of course not, I knew that.
And that may, honestly, that may affect some of the pricing, if you know what I mean.
Well, we're gonna follow that on the next agenda item. Okay, any motion?
I'll hold it.
Thanks. One second. Further questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by.
Excuse me, just to add one thing, some of that cost was budgeted in our, it was budgeted in this year's budget, for capital costs. So there was a way to pay for it.
Now you put me in a spot here, was that put into our thought process as when we did the access road, that there was gonna be a need for a camera there?
No, that was just,
So
we
it
knew.
was missed.
No, that's not really fair to say.
Okay, so the Coast Guard says this is different now, okay, not the.
See, the Coast Guard is not this happy with where it is right now. They want it in a place for somebody to watch it. And we can't watch it from the scale, so we're still gonna have it in that belt. Well, when we have a bigger operation, unloading ships and stuff, it's still gonna be there.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Agenda item B2 was held over from the facilities committee pending review of the waiver process. So that being said, the next item we'll go to is item C1, approval of insurance renewals. There's different versions out there, I just wanna make sure that you've got the correct one. The correct one that you should have looks like this, it's a single page document, and down here the total is $190,040 in, effective cost. I apologize, we just had the bid opening yesterday, so we're a little, behind the eight ball with this.
190.4.
Yep, 190,040.
So this other one is no longer in use.
That's correct.
It's in here.
This is a result of the request for proposals for insurance coverage.
Mr. Chairman, I thought last time we talked about this before, we're gonna look at two-year contracts. I see most of these here are one-year proposals.
There are some here that are 2 years. We put the request for a proposal out on the street. We did receive 2 responses. You can see the responses over in the column on the left for the various things that we have. There is one thing here regarding airport access liability that we have not had before that we're recommending that we should have based on the learnings from the RFP process. So the table on the left shows the bid amounts. The table on the right shows what we're recommending for selection for a total of $190,040, and that's pretty much across the board for all those different types of insurance.
If I could, I would like to point out that I broke down the directors and officers from an email, and the correct amount under the Transrail column for directors and officers is $6,843, and that would be the same as the bid amounts and the selected amount. That would change that total to $190,541. I apologize for that error.
Question I,
Yeah, 6893. 6893. Yeah.
now this bid is all under one umbrella, correct?
No.
Are there bits and pieces? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out here, because I want to ask the question, in other words, if somebody is doing the insurance for the directors and the officers, are they doing all of this? Or is a separate insurance company doing each piece?
The Transrail Associates bid is for the liability. Let's start with that.
Okay, yep.
The Hale Fire and Coon for the liability was broken out into 4 different categories. The Transrail bid is all of those categories for one price. So that's the $88,280 versus $87,500. The directors and officers was separate bid because that expired on July 3rd or July 4th, something like that. I got that extended to July 31st at the last minute. But these bids came in separately because of the July 4th date. That's why there's a separate line for that. And the Hale Fire and Coon bid 14, the Transrail bid was $6,893. Then the property, net marine, commercial auto, those 3, the Transrail was unable to bid on those because of lack of sufficient information. They asked for 5 years of loss runs. We requested 5 years of loss runs. We did not receive those in time. They were unable to quote on that because of that. The crime in the airport, those were expired in April, and the bid, the crime was in April, that was bid then.
Excuse me.
And the airport, the same, that was expired at a different time. But I want to put them all on here because and this airport excess liability was came from Transrail as a recommendation, because we have $2 million liability at the airport. And they felt strongly that that was insufficient for any kind of accident that we might have there, and they recommended this, and it sounded like a good idea. That's why we put it on here as a recommendation to accept that additional cost. And Rick can answer any of your questions better than I can. He's representing Transrail Associates, who will write these contracts, write the insurance if you choose to.
Well, one of the things that I'm kind of concerned here with this MWB stuff that comes through here or whatever. Now, what I look at is who ensures it? Each broker, each policy has a different broker that you bid up to insure it. Is that how that works?
Well, to answer your question, I'm actually with Arthur J. Gallagher and Associates. We're based in White Plains. We are the marketing side for Transrail. Transrail is a certified MWBE entity that Fred has vetted. Gallagher has worked in the past with these folks, and we've had a very good experience with them. So that's why we chose them to put forth for you. To answer Fred's question, starting with the liabilities, we presently have 4 policies. For the marine part, you have $5 million of coverage. Presently, now I'm going with what is still in place. You have a total of $5 million in coverage over 2 layers. And as Fred and I and Karen had discussed, the excess part of that, the 4X01 to Fred's point, renewed on July 4th, and the primary part renewed on July 31st. So Fred was able to go to your current agent and get them to extend that, and that was only on July 2nd. The workers' compensation, which is separate, that renewed on March 31st. The crime and the aviation on April 30th. We were not able to quote on those. Property, inland marine, and the others, to Fred's point, despite Karen and Fred's efforts, they were only able to get the complete loss runs we needed. I think it was June 26th was the final ones, and it only left us 5 working days, which simply, to go to a new market, is just not enough time. However, on the liability side, we've gone to a group called TT Mutual Insurance Limited, and I'd imagine none of you have heard of them. They are perhaps the largest insurer of ports, terminals, logistical operators in the world. I've dealt with them personally. They're AM best, A- rated, well above what you need. They have offered the port, and I would add, I cold called on the port 6 years ago personally with a different employer, and with Fred's predecessor. This same TT Club was very anxious to write it at that time. For whatever reasons, it never got traction years ago. But to get back to the here and now, what the TT Club has offered you is a policy that will start on July 31st of this year, and offer you a 2-year contract. It'll give you $5 million per occurrence across the board. That includes your automobile, your marine, and all of your other general liabilities, the stevedores, the wharfagers, the warehousing, the marine GL part. Under that, you have sublimits, $2 million for your employer benefits liability. For example, if you hire a new person, you forget to put them on medical, that sort of thing.
Are those minimum numbers or are those pretty above average?
That's on the low side of safe. This is a smaller entity.
Okay.
I would suggest no less than that. Personally, from what I've seen over 40 years, I'd recommend you buying up to $10 million, which I would imagine would be another $5,000 to $10,000. I can price that if you'd like to see it, but right now what we're giving you is a unified policy. You have one carrier to provide you with $5 million. And I think what's interesting here, in addition to, you'll have automobile up to $5 million, where you only have 2 now, and that's where you could get into a real sticky situation. I personally handled an automobile for a chassis leasing company, and it was a $100 million claim that was settled for $30 million. And that was for a company at the time called Transamerica Leasing Corporation, or they leased out container chassis. Now, different business than yours, but a family unfortunately was killed, and that's where the court's taken. In
Let me
addition
stop
to
there, let me stop you,
Sure.
because that's really important numbers, what you just said. So if the liability number is, 87,000 for 5 million, and you said you would double that to 10, for how much?
This is just a guess, sir.
We'll take it.
I'm a broker,
We'll take it.
I'm not an underwriter, and
I
I'll
know,
talk to
but
my
I'm
firm.
just saying this
I would
so you-
imagine for not more than about another $10,000.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how many claims there are, but it all takes one.
Fortunately, you have a real good record on the liability, and, you know, from what I have seen.
So it's,
But still, $10 million in coverage is not silly numbers at all.
okay. I mean, this board needs to know, I mean, exactly what our other options are. I mean, if
If-
there's something more, then we sit back and say, well, wait, why didn't you tell us that? I mean, so we can react to that numbers.
Well, if you can allow me the benefit of, say, 24 hours maximum, I can come in with a hard quotation for that part.
Okay, we can talk about that.
Sure.
I don't know, Doug, you
What,
think?
I guess, Fred, you said that Transrail could not bid on, and what was the reason for that?
That we did not supply them with the information that they needed. We were requested by, Karen and I both worked as hard as we could work to get that information. We asked our current broker to provide that information. They provided information, we forwarded to Rick. Rick would come back and say, this is what I've asked for. We were led to believe that that was the information we asked for. So, once we got that, we felt that we had done what was requested. So, it was difficult. We kept, when Rick would say he didn't have the information, write back to them, or call them, and say, that wasn't enough. We would give them the explanation that Rick gave. This is 2 years' worth, or this is 3 years' worth, or whatever. We've asked for 5 years. And I think there's, the state law says that they have 10 days to do it. Well, if they misunderstand what we asked for, whether intentionally or not, then when we ask again, that starts another 10 days, and so on. So by the time we got it, it was too late.
I guess my concern is that I just would like to know what Transrail would have given us a quote on the rest of that,
Me
that
too.
HVC that, and I would like to see us next year, when we get into this, is I'd like to have this done last month. Where if we have questions, if there's something, we can get it done, and just like you said, if you wanted to double the policy, he's gonna get back in 24 hours. I think if we had another month where we could review this and talk and come up with stuff like that, then we would have this before a hardcore deadline, and we need to have it done today. You know what I'm saying? I'd like more time to have this discussion.
To address that point, that's what that next line actually does. The broker record for these renewals would be Transrail Associates, and that would allow us the flexibility to not have to go through this information dance that delayed
Yeah.
company's ability to quote.
Let's go back to
And
the,
could I finish Wade's point, that would also put the entire $190,000 into the MWBE
thank you, that was my
column.
question right there.
Into the MWBE column, we would pay that quarterly, and that would resolve many of our goal issues on MWBE.
I don't have, I just would like more time.
Yeah. Oh,
As a board member, I want
yeah.
more time to review this, and if we have questions, then we can have it, we've got a month to get the answers and get a little bit more educated on that. And as I said, I would have liked to see what PRA would have given us for bids for the other areas, that's all.
If I could just offer one comment to support yours and Fred's. I have to say, I can't tip my hat enough to both Karen and Fred, and I was dogging the two of them for this information. I don't mean that in a negative or an adversarial way, but I finally got to the point where I went to some of our marketing people where we dug up the insurance statute that said, once you, as the insured, makes the request for the loss information, the state requires the agent of record produce it within 10 days. I can assure you that it was our intention and our desire to provide you with quotes with every line of coverage. That's what we wanted to do. As a matter of background, we are the brokers for the city of Ogdensburg, and that's been since 1986. We're the brokers for the village of Messina, and also the brokers for Albany County. These are all nonprofit public entities such as the court. So we do have a good experience in that space. To Fred's point, I know it sounds like I'm saying, just give everything to us, it's a Transrail, and I appreciate that, but our commitment in writing would be to immediately extend the policies all out to August 1st, as the RFP requests, to do a thorough review of every coverage, to then, with broker of record authority, we can go to those carriers and say, excuse me, we need this year's losses, and we need the past 4 years' losses. We do that all the time for our clients, and then we will provide a quarterly, if you need it, or semi-annual, a loss update. So here's where you are with your losses, here's any deterioration, here's any improvement, this one's closed since the last time we talked or not. We also have a gentleman on our staff that we hired away from my previous employer, a company called Aon. They're one of the big shops in the city. And he can provide at no cost, at any interval you wish, health, safety, and environmental meetings for your staff, say on the port or in the Commerce Park, to discuss near-miss situations, loss prevention, claims control, and that sort of thing that we can bring to you. As I say, that's part of the service that we do. Another thing I want to stress on the workers' comp, that was one where, despite Karen and Fred's efforts, we never saw one line of loss information. You're with the New York State Fund. That's a good carrier. There are 2 alternative markets out there that would entertain a marine and a landside comp exposure that we really wanted to talk to. That would be one of our commitments to you as far as, the marketing is concerned. We would market each of the policies, such as we were able to do in a short period of time, thanks to Fred's intervention, on the professional liability and the employment practices cover. We were able to essentially cut the premium in half and reduce the deductible from $10,000 to $5,000. It's A-rated 15 paper with AM Best, which, put another way, it's $2 billion in assets. So I can't state clearly enough that my request to be, for us all, Transrail and Gallagher to be appointed as broker on all coverages, it's not that we want to be picky. We want to show you what we can do and give you a good, unified program.
Do we have time to do that?
It's in the resolution. It's in the resolution.
Rick, is the officers and directors liability coverage $5 million as well?
No, ma'am, that's $2 million as it was. If you wish higher limits on that, there were no claims on that. It's not like you're Enron or something like that, where you're out there with your chin out in the boxing ring all the time. But if you would prefer to look at another $3 million, we can do that very quickly.
Is that what our whole coverage was, $2 million?
Yes.
So that's a half, the premium's cut in half now?
Roughly half, yes. And what we did was, that policy renewed on July 1st, and Fred, I think you and I looked at that one about June 30th or June 29th. We wrote that policy from July 1st of 2013 right through to August 1st, 2014. So you've got 13 months coverage there, which again, I think it's 0.3 in your RFP, which complies with the desire that all of the coverages come to an August 1st. You better stop me, sir, because I'll talk all day.
And I'll start talking too.
Cool.
Well, it brings me to a very interesting point here, because the percentages of this MWBE, whatever, all right, all of a sudden we start fulfilling when we get the best price for a product at this kind of money, changes a lot of dynamics for other contracts and things that we do. What's the percentage of this being for?
Again, we haven't got the quarter calculated.
But what's that dollar amount be? 5%, 10%?
It would be over 10%.
That's what I mean. Now was this calculated this way last year with us?
No, because it had been a long-term contract, I exempted it. I was able to exempt insurance because we had the contract originated before the goals were written.
And you couldn't, so it was grandfathered that way and not the other way where we could utilize it. Well,
But by going to RFP, now it counts.
Isn't that interesting?
Tell me one thing, just trying to get this clear in my mind, like Doug said, we had this before us, before we probably would ask the question. It looks like we had the directors and officers, that's 14,781.
That was the bid. Yeah, right.
And then there's a difference in bid of 6,000,
Yeah, go over 7,000.
$7,888.
Yes.
So, this gentleman's company has quoted on 3 areas,
That's right.
which is part of the $190,000.
Yes.
And would he have time now to review the rest of these items?
If we pass this resolution as it's written, they will become the broker of record. I will sign a broker of record letter. I'll give you the authority to sign a broker of record letter, meaning that the business would go to them. Then they would review it, as Rick said, they would review it and may be able to get us a lower premium, is that correct?
May.
May, yeah, they don't
Right.
know.
What about higher? Yeah, what about higher? What happens?
Well, unfortunately, not having been able to quote on those coverages, we were working with lawyers on it. So we wouldn't know. Now, I showed the property, the equipment, the auto, and the aviation to our experts in those fields. I think the aviation for your primary policy, that's a $5,000 policy. I don't think you're gonna see much movement on that, but what we would probably do for the next renewal is offer you one policy instead of an excess layer, one policy for the higher layer where you would see your economy of scale. But for the property.
How long would those policies be good for?
We would negotiate for 2 years if the carriers will allow us to. If not, it would be a minimum of 1 year.
Can we
So
go
Rick,
more
I
than
think the
2?
question,
Can we go more than 2?
For the policy, for the liability policies, we can request that. I have done 3-year policies with TT.
See, that's what Doug was saying, so we knew that, you'd be more informed to say, okay, what is the savings, what is the continuity, you know? We know all that stuff.
If I can, and I could be, sir, I just add one more comment. On the liability package with TT Club, I think it's very important to note that your present insurances are very limited for terrorism. I think your primary landside general liability includes terrorism, the excess does not, and the marine policies do not. I've reviewed them. I don't think I have to tell anybody that the Canadian-US border is the soft border of choice for terrorists. I've gone into Vancouver from Seattle in a rental car, and I had the border agent say, "What's the license number on your car?" I said, "Sir, I don't have a clue. I rented it last night at SeaTac Airport." I guess that was the right answer because he let me through, but it's tough. Now, that terrorism coverage is included, $5 million across all of those 4 policies that we've combined into one. So if you had a terrorist act at the toll booth, the industrial park, port, you've got the coverage.
Where's the border station taking us? The border station, where's that coming from?
The border station rolls up and
So they're included in, Fred, you wanna make a comment, sir?
Yeah, Rick, I think the question, as I understood it from Doug, was, right now, property in and marina and the commercial auto, counterfire code adds up to $82,665.
That's
Would that change if you became the broker of record?
not immediately. Now,
Would it change either up or down? It could have changed in either direction.
the honest answer is, it could change in either direction. We would obviously remarket that with the idea of changing the calendar. Now, it is the 10th. If we could get those loss runs in the next, say, 2-3 days, we have a shot at changing it for you for July 31st. But in the worst case, we would roll over the current policy, or policies, with the idea of not getting any increase on it. And I've checked with all the carriers you have. Our firm, Transrail, have a lot of clout with them. We place a lot of business with them, so.
What's your recommendation?
But I believe all of these are with Philadelphia.
The auto, the inland, and the property with
Are all with
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Now, my understanding of signing a broker's record means that you are now the broker record with Philadelphia for this policy, for what they quoted for the next year.
That's
Am I
correct.
wrong in that?
That's correct.
That's correct. So, if you didn't market it, that's it, that's our price, then we have that insurance for a year, you're the broker record, that's correct. So if you marketed it and you got a higher price from travelers, why would you accept that? I don't know why.
Oh, there'd be no
possibly
reason to.
go higher.
We would only suggest you to accept, if you will, the existing worst case scenario.
So it seems to me that we would either keep Philadelphia at $82,665, or we accept something less. We would not.
That's exactly
We would
correct.
not choose to go higher.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we would
That's
certainly
what I
not
thought.
recommend it.
Thank you.
And again, not to go back on the liability, but I think it's important to note there that under that program, that also includes a $1.5 million sublimit of full errors and omissions coverage. If, let's say, a shipment left the port and it was supposed to go to city A and it ended up at city B, and they pointed their fingers at the port and said that was your boo-boo, that picks up the financial cost of righting that wrong.
Give us a recommendation, thank you, what you see.
Well, my recommendation is, of course, that we take the lower cost of liability, because not only is it cost less, but we're getting more. We're getting more for less. And it is an MWD, which helps on another issue that we have, making our goals. And then, I think that signing the broker record letter is important, because, again, it helps our MWD, but it also gives us the opportunity to get what we need when we ask for it. If I ask for 5 years of loss runs, I expect to get it. I don't expect to have to ask it.
Mr. Chairman, I would make the recommendation that we approve this on the consideration of the CEO. Mr. Moore.
I don't know if he was done talking though.
I know, but I think we all
That'll
know.
talk.
I think he heard your recommendation.
Yes.
I'll support this, but, you know, that next year, I'd like it ahead of time, so we can get all these, you know, if we can. So
That
these
makes,
questions,
you might get it this year according to that gentleman right there.
It's a stretch, but we
Yeah.
will definitely work on it. And I would say another point in our being appointed as broker, well, Transrail on us. What we will do during the course of next year is present Fred and anyone else, especially Karen, with a strategy report for renewal, which will be some 5-6 months out, and a timeline. So that, exactly to your point, here's our goals. By this date, we've done this, by that date, we've done that, and so on. So that we're not sitting here 15 minutes before the ball
Yeah.
drops.
Absolutely, so again, you'd be our broker record once this, Transrail would be our broker.
Well,
record.
Transrail would be, we do the marketing on it.
Again, key for your timeline for next year, when we go to approve this, we need to have this before a committee, this exact information that we have right here before a committee, in the finance early June, finance committee, and that way we can look at it and then approve it in July.
August 1st, if we go with that date, yeah, I would say early June at the very latest, probably around Memorial Day week.
Great. Thank you.
Fred, to your resolution, I would point out that that number is 195.41, not 190.04.
What'd you say?
In the resolution, it says not to exceed 190.040.
Yeah.
That should be 195.
You want me to put 195 in there? 41?
190, comma, 541.
541. I had it the other way.
Get up by the way.
So I got it now, it's 190,541. Did I make that motion, Mr. Chairman?
We have a second from Doug. Yes, Steve?
Sorry, could I just ask one question myself?
Sure.
Safety and health. If you commit, or we commit to a program with your people, you mentioned that, does that drive costs down? Will that, I mean, if we were, you said you've got an individual that runs health and safety and kind of audits and things like that.
It would drive costs down, and it would assist support in minimizing or eliminating
Yeah,
claims.
so for example, a year from now, if we check all the boxes of some of the training involved, things like that, if that would be a plus on our side toward cost.
It's a plus. Now, all of liability insurance, as it's been presented on the PT groups, is for 2 years,
Oh,
okay? That doesn't mean we can't come back and say, hey, you know what, these guys have done this. Look it over, you have it in your heart to give us a little something.
all right, thanks.
Okay, any further comment from the board members? Okay, all those, would you like a roll call vote with this? Steve? Or you think?
Just a second.
We're coming up with a different number.
Well, you're in the finance committee, talk to us.
I said it's deep, I'm not good with that.
Well, I'm getting 551 also very quickly with, not 541. Because, the 6893 is 511 more than 6382. So if you add that on, it'd be 190, 55. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What's the proper number?
555.
551.
551, so one number off.
$10.
Wow.
But,
I call for a roll call vote, Mr. Chairman.
roll call vote's fine.
Right, Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Deloche?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Reagan?
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I thought you'd come back around to the end.
That's okay, exactly.
And you won't lose your turn because.
He's been around boards before. he's
Yeah,
happy.
yeah, I'm.
See, Gavin, what we've done in this process is we've kind of used a little better form of parliamentary procedure. If somebody wants to, most of the votes usually in the past have been aye, yea, no, whatever. And now, if anybody wishes to see how one individual clearly votes, because we've had some issues in the past where the press thought that somebody nodded their head or didn't nod their head or didn't make a vocal vote that was clearly heard. So if those type of sensitive issues come up, we make a roll call vote. I know it's other boards and policies, whatever, it's always a roll call vote, but here we've kind of, moved our process a little quicker sometimes, so that's why it happened that way. Oh, next?
There is one more agenda item, your regular business, it's agenda item C2. It's approval of a contract for carpet installation. I'll give you a minute to get to it. I had on the front the incorrect version of the insurance. Page 2 in that packet. Again, a small item, but it needs to come before you because of our procurement policy. It is over $5,000. We solicited quotes from 5 vendors for installation of carpeting here in this building. There was one responded, Gardner's, price quote was $7,827.
Wait, I'm good. Yes, I know.
Yes, the RFP on the insurance.
No.
Oh, on the
Carpet.
carpet, yes it is. And I'll send out to, send it out to the. Seven. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we approve.
I'll second.
This is all runway carpet, right?
Yes, the hallway, pretty much the hallway carpet, and one office that hasn't been done yet.
Two up, one upstairs, two downstairs.
Runway with two offices.
Is that your office? No.
No, it is not. That's,
Payroll.
Is that little room?
Well, I'd like to make note of, as far as the improvements of this building, this is one of the things that we really kind of update this building the best we can, with the outside, inside, whatever, and I know it's part of that process. I know some of the office and stuff in our area has been improved, and, I know it's part of your policy and procedure, what you're working on, and I think this is, we need to really continue doing that, so. You made a motion to.
Motion, and Doug seconded it?
Doug
Ready
seconded.
for a vote?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there is a need for for a brief executive session regarding, litigation, regarding the Greek crossing and matters leading to.
One thing
rejecting the bids.
No.
We're just looking for a point of information because of the two issues we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that should be discussed with
Yeah.
the waiver thing.
Yes. And it will be on our agenda for the facility committee next time, and hopefully.
Or it could actually move right to the full board because it's not a big issue.
But I would ask in that resolution, whatever it is, to ask the lowest bidder exactly what, I'm not sure if that's a legal thing to do, what their warranty is.
He already put it in the bid.
No, you can't.
Well, you can't go back and find it by that.
Okay, I just asked a question.
ESD,
Huh?
ESD Bank.
Yes.
And we will also, as a follow-up, we will send you a link to our procurement policy and also our MWP policy. So it's available on our website as well.
Okay, let's adjourn.
No, I make a motion to go into executive session, but my question is, prior to passing that motion to go into executive session, are we gonna take any action in regards to the executive session items?
Depends on the pleasure of the board. There is one item for
I
discussion.
thought there was a resolution in regards to the executive session, in regards to the,
Well, we need to talk about it first and decide which way the board wants to go.
so there could be action to come out of that.
Possibly, yes. And if there is one.
Oh, I would make the motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Second, Doug, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Come on down, come back to this meeting. Let the record, show that we're now back in executive session, and it's now 11:35.
It is?
Yeah, it's on. And, there was no action out of that particular meeting, executive session. Wait, anything else you need to address at this time?
There's agenda item C3, such other matters as may come before the board. This is approval of a settlement agreement for the 2003 Great Crossings Improvement Project litigation.
Okay.
In this agreement, the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority will receive $12,500 in payment. Claims $6,000 by the contractor, $6,500 by the supplier, and the Bridge and Port Authority will pay the contractor $101,157.61, which represents the DOT. This resolves all claims relating to the Great Crossing Improvement Project for 2003. Yes.
Now, do we have something from the contractor and them saying this is what they agreed to?
Yes, we have a verbal agreement from two of the three parties with the third party.
So you'll get something in writing before we
Yes.
do all this releasing of monies?
That's correct. There will be two other signatures on that document before we accept it.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we approve this document with that understanding.
I'll second.
Second. Further comments, questions?
You will not hear. I mean,
This resolves all claims.
this resolves everything. Thank you.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.